Talama one anime gang, and welcome back to another Path of Exile 2 video. And today I want to give my take on the vision, this whole meaningful combat thing going on with Path of Exile 2 from a perspective of a relatively new player. So just to give you guys some context, I picked up Path of Exile 1 early last year when I saw the Path of Exile 2 review. I think I first watched the Druid showcase and I was like, bro, this looks sick. So before getting into period 2, I thought, okay, let me pick up PoE 1 and learn about the game, get me prepared for the upcoming PoE 2. So I picked up PoE 1, I pushed up until somewhere late Act 3 until I hit a roadblock. I just started dying, getting one shot, and I didn't know what to do after that. And I just gave up, right? The game does not hold your hand. Like, there's so much research you have to do with this game, or at least PoE 1. I feel like I spent more time online doing research than actually playing the game, and I just couldn't do it anymore, so I did not make it past Act 3. Come PoE 2, I've now hit 500 hours in this game. I absolutely love Path of Exile 2. Honestly, it's somewhere up there as my favorite games of all time, even though it's not yet out. But like, dude, I just love what the game offers already. I can see the potential, and I know that eventually the game will be, the game that they actually want it to be. Like, it's just that good. But there's no denying the game has problems, and this is what I want to talk about. The whole meaningful combat stroke vision, mostly surrounding how the mobs are designed in this game. So again, just to give you guys this whole meaningful combat or vision thing for Path of Exile 2. So the devs did not like the fact that in Path of Exile 1, a lot of people just utilized one specific skill. They would press one skill and the entire screen just blew up, right? All the mobs on the screen blew up. So GGG was not a huge fan of this. And so for Path of Exile 2, what they want is for us to actually interact with the mobs a little bit, right? Be aware of the dangers and have stroke meaningful combat. And yeah, there are a lot of issues with this in this game, and let's get into it. So firstly, this whole meaningful combat only applies to the first act of Path of Exile 2, as well as the bosses, right? Boss mechanics, and that's all. Maybe early Act 2, but at that point you can really get into like one specific skill and you just blow up the mobs either way. Act 1 does this probably because of the very few density of mobs, right, at this level, as well as the pacing of the game. You can actually react to what the enemies are doing. The witch in early Act 1, you can see she casts a spell, you can react to that shit real quickly. The wolves coming at you, you can react easily. So it works well for the first act, but then when stuff gets faster, this is where it's blown out of proportion. So going to the end game, for example, let's say a breach or delirium, or even just basic mapping, right? There's a huge density of mobs. They're moving at max speed, right? They're super fast coming at you. Like, at what point in time will you start this meaningful combat, right? Of comboing a lot of skills? Like, just doesn't work, right? The mobs are too fast. You want to delete them from the screen as fast as possible. So like, this whole meaningful combat gets thrown out of the window the moment the mobs are sped up. If they want to really implement this whole meaningful combat thing, I think they'll have to look back at Act 1 and find a way to replicate that in endgame. I know people don't like the slow-paced gameplay for PoE 2 early game, and I do agree. I like moving faster. I like having 35% movement speed. It just feels good. But like, I didn't have a problem with Act 1 because again, the maps are really small, few density of mobs. So if somehow they can find a way to condense that in endgame, right? A smaller map, smaller mobs, and huge rewards, I think that would work out pretty well. But I think majority of us like fast-paced combat. So if they can find a way to implement this with fast-paced combat or fast-paced movement, then that would be even better. And for this, I'll get into that, like the mob design and mob density, I'll get into that. But like, this whole meaningful combat thing only works with Act 1, and so the bosses as well. The bosses, you actually interact with boss mechanics no matter how fast you are or no matter how powerful you are. outside of the broken builds, of course. So you interact with unblockable stuff, you dodge, react to stuff. When the freaking Zest is moving around, throwing around icicles, you know, these giant hands from the ground, you actually react to that stuff. This is the meaningful combat. This is the vision. You actually get your combo, your skills, and all that stuff. So this applies very well to the bosses, but not so much the mobs after Act 1, at least in my opinion. For my second point, I want to talk about how the mobs are designed in this game and like the power scaling on how we feel when mapping. So basically there are white mobs, these are your basic mobs or your trash mobs, and then there are unique and rare enemies, and then there's bosses. I think these are like the common tiers of the enemies in Path of Exile 2, maybe I'm wrong. So what I don't like about this is how when we're mapping, right, we still are very afraid of just playing the game feeling powerful. Like we are not allowed to feel that invincible when mapping, like despite how strong we become against basic mobs. I don't think that should be a thing. Now again, I'm relatively new to the world of RPGs, you know, Path of Exile, Diablo, but I know for a fact that in PoE 1 or Diablo, you just blow up the basic mobs very easily, right? Like you're a god now, you're super strong, super powerful. So this should be the power fantasy that we all want and love. So that really just makes sense. But like in Path of Exile 2, when mapping, it's like you're more afraid of dying than actually blowing up monsters, right? You're always on the edge. And there's a lot of reasons for this. I think there's a lot of imbalance with the mobs. Okay, so going back to the white, let's start with the white mobs first. And for this, I want to give an example of Wuthering Waves. Wuthering Waves is a gacha game, so it's also an RPG, but the anime kind of game. So in terms of how mobs are in this game, so for example, the basic white mobs in Path of Exile 2, I would compare them to like the basic thugs, right? Thugs and bandits you find like in camps and stuff like that. These are like super trash mobs, bro. Trash mobs, just blow them up, boom, you move forward, right? But like in those trash mobs, you have like the bandit leader or the thug leader, and he's a bit chunky and he hits a bit harder, right? So you know to look out for the bandit boss or the bandit leader. And this makes you aware of the fact that, okay, these are trash mobs without a bandit boss, so I can just blow them up in one go. But if there's a bandit leader, I can blow up the trash mobs and then deal with the bandit leader. But like in Path of Exile 2, that is not the case, bro. Like you find a bunch of white mobs, quite alright, they would be weak. But then in those white mobs, you'll find, let's say an enemy type. Let's say the same witch from Act 1, the Clearfield Encampment. The one with a lot of babies around, she summons a lot of babies. So she casts this spell on the ground, and this spell hits fucking hard, bro. Like this, I've died to this spell so many times. So like you have a bunch of white mobs, a bunch of weak white mobs, but in those white mobs you have a couple of those witches. And because of a lot of stuff going on the screen, you don't see that witch, which is like the hardest hitting white mob, right? And you just die because you were not aware that the witch was there. And this applies to a lot of enemy types in the game, a lot of them. There is the freaking hyena centaur from Act 2. The half hyena, half horse looking thing, and he chucks a spear. That spear does a ton of damage. So if you're not aware, again, because of a lot of stuff on the screen, you can just get hit one shot by the spear, or at least get like very low health from that one spear, then get mobbed by the rest of the mobs, right? There's the enemy with the meteor that shoots out a meteor from the sky. I remember that mob was nerfed, but like it still hit hard. Again, if you're not aware of that enemy, because sometimes you can aggro the enemy, and because you're moving around and fighting a lot, it like gets out of your sight, right? So you can aggro it and then get out of range, and that mob still attacks you. There is that white mob with the freaking laser beam that does the same thing. There are those grenade chunking mobs from Act 2 in the quarry. Like there's a lot of mobs like this. So for me, I don't think this should be the case, right? White mobs should just be white mobs. We should be able to just kill them instantly. But then I think the mobs we have to worry about is the rare the rare enemies. And this brings me to the comparison of the bandit leader in Wuthering Waves. The bandits are trash mobs, but the bandit leader hits pretty hard. So in Path of Exile 2, you should have the white mobs, and then the rares should be the ones that hit pretty hard. And speaking of rares as well, this brings me back to the meaningful combat issue, because with rare enemies in this game, it just feels as though you're dealing with the rare enemies mods more than the actual rare enemy itself, right? So this for me does not sit well. Now this is an ARPG thing, right? I guess. Of course, for me, I would rather prefer, let me just fight the rare, bruh. Like, I don't care about dodging volatile plants, cold explosions, conjures lightning storms, magma barrier, right? Let me fight the actual rare enemy itself. And if they want meaningful combat, then we should be able to interact with this rare like a low-key boss mechanic, like a low-key boss, right? With having interactive mechanics we get to dodge around. At least for me, that would be my ideal design of the meaningful combat around rare enemies. But with the mods, it's like I'm just more so thinking about the mods than the enemy itself, and it does not fit this whole meaningful combat thing. And then going back to Withering Waves, we have the bosses. Then the bosses are now like where the combat actually shines in Withering Waves, and this is where the combat shines in Path of Exile 2 as well. Like for me, my favorite mode in this game is the unique map. I think it's called the Megalith, that has a boss rush, and this brings out the essence of what Path of Exile 2 was meant to be, the meaningful combat. This is the essence of the meaningful combat that GG has spoken about, the boss rush. I wish we had more of this. So for like going back to the mobs in mapping, a lot of stuff needs to be changed, right? The mobs are so strong, we shouldn't really be worrying about white mobs all that much. And having other content in the game, like the rogue exiles as well. This is where GGG can really shine at bringing out that meaningful combat, because you do a map, boom, you run into a rogue exile, then you get to fight. Like, you get to actually fight and take part in the game's mechanics of dodging and comboing skills, because you're fighting against a tough enemy. So if they had like more of rogue exiles and more of chunky enemies like rares that actually just fought you and did not use the maps on their body, I think that would be really, really fun. And something else I want to talk about in terms of mapping and mobs is this so many ground effects, bro. Ground effects, lava on the floor. This is not really fun. There's so many enemies that leave a ton of shit on the ground, and you're worrying about volatile plants. You're worrying about exploding cold explosions or fire explosions, conjures lightning storms. At the same time, you're worried about puddles of DOT on the ground as well. Like, it's so frustrating. There are so many enemies. There are those what are these guys called? Zombies from Act 2, the Phrathon, you know, the purple zombies that leave purple shit on the ground that deals chaos damage. You have those you know what is the fallen druid boss. You have those guys that spit that yellow shit on the ground. You have those exploding babies from Act 1 in the ogre manor that leave corrupted blood on the ground. You have cold explosions. Like, there's just so much stuff that remains on the ground, which just does not make it fun, at least for me, right? There's no need to have all this stuff on the ground, or at least PoE 2 should have a better design of which enemies should combo with each other. So again, going back to Withering Waves, so when you go to Withering Waves, and there's the end game mechanic where you can preview the enemies that you're going to fight, so you can like prepare your team and then go in and fight. I think this should be a thing in PoE 2 where you can see a preview of the enemies in the map before you actually go into the map, so you know what to expect when you go into the map. Because again, you can be fighting a random enemy, and then you have a caster, right? A caster enemy type you haven't seen from the fucking left side of the screen, and he just shoots out an electric bolt, right? That brings you like half health, and you get killed by other stuff like random grenades from the guys from Act 2 the quarry stage. Like, just the mob density, the mob design, it just doesn't feel right? You just don't feel as though you're a god, you're indestructible, even when mapping against white mobs, and that's a huge deal in my opinion. But other than that, like I said, when you get to bosses, that's really fun. Megalith is really, really fun. And like early Act 1 is like the best part for me in what this game is supposed to be. I don't know about endgame modes like Breach or Delirium, because that is not meaningful combat. it is fun. Like, I love Breach and I just blowing a bunch of enemies up. But like, is that the vision they really wanted? Like, it doesn't add up, right? It doesn't add up. For me, the megalith is what the vision is. The megalith is good. A ritual is enough, but like, again, the mob designs and everything on the ground, like, it's just a lot, guys. It's just a lot. So I think there's still a lot of work that needs to be done with this game. But again, it is early access. I know people don't like hearing that, but love it or not, hate it, love it. It is still early access and they'll be making a bunch of changes, but I don't know how long it will take for them to reevaluate the whole vision and combat system, especially when it comes to like the mobs and mob density of the game. So that's my take on the meaningful combat in Path of Exile 2. Still needs a lot of work, but I'm still having fun. I'm still having a good time. In terms of updates on my current builds, I am trying to push my Chayula Poison Monk. I'm currently in Act 2, Crow. I just reached Desha, and so far so good. Well, I feel as though early game, there isn't really that many ways to scale chaos damage, honestly, when you're using poison, so it's kind of frustrating. The bow I want is like, I can get it like level 70, I'll still have a way to go, but we're still getting there. And I'm also still playing my Gulf Shards Tactician. I'm using it to farm for currency for my Chayula Monk, so I can get him good gear, and I'll update you guys when I do reach end game and get back into mapping. And I still want to push my Gulf Shards build, Duo Companion. Dude, I fought T4 Zest and got him to like 2 hits, bro. My damage is getting way better, but I'm still doing a bit more boss mechanics, and I still feel as though the build isn't ready, or at least at full potential, so I still have more ways to update that build. I will let you guys know. So anyway guys, I really hope you enjoyed my yapping. At the end of the day, I do love this game. Again, 500 hours. I love it. Dude, one of my favorite games, man, so far. I can't even lie, bro. Like, never in my life have I ever seen a game that gives you this much creativity, build potential. There's so many ways to play the game differently. And this is what I love about Path of Exile 2. So guys, thank you so much again. If you're new, please do consider subscribing. I'm covering some PoE2 content. I have a variety channel. Don't forget to like, and yeah, take care, my boys. GG.